What's up, guys? It's Fulton here, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Taylor Tech Review. We've got a lot to cover in this video. There's confirmed Ampere specs. TSMC is officially king of the Fabs. We have got AMD's roadmap all the way out through 2022. We got those Starlink speed tests for sure this time. Tesla news and more, but you know what? Enough intro. Let's get started. So at the time of filming, we are right on the edge of NVIDIA's big Ampere announcement, and at this point, details are leaking like a screen door on the space station. All the leaks we've talked about in the last few videos have pretty much all panned out. Video Cards has now gotten a hold of final specs for the 3090 and the 3080, and most of them for the 3070 as well. The 3090 and 3080 use the GA102 die, and they pull 350 and 320 watts respectively, with the 3070 using the smaller GA104 die and pulling a much more reasonable 220 watts. We're still expecting both 10 and 20 gigabyte variants of the 3080 and the 8 and 16 gigabyte variants of the 3070, with those higher capacity versions coming out probably a month or so after the first cards. Now, in my opinion, if you want maximum longevity, your card, buy the higher capacity version, if at all, financially possible. It's been proven in benchmarks over the years that cards with higher RAM capacity just age better. As time passes, you need more video RAM, and they'll last you longer if you can afford it. Now, this is going to be a staggered launch for the 3000 series, with the 3090 and 3080 launching in late September. The 3070 is launching in early October, and the 3060 sometime in November before Thanksgiving. Make it for Black Friday. Now, from what I've heard, NVIDIA is trying to simplify the product stacked and naming for this generation of cards, because if you look at the mess they made over the last couple of years, it's confusing as hell. For example, you've got the 1650, the 1650 Ti, and a 1650 Super. Or you've got the 1660, the 1660 Ti, and the 1660 Super. If a friend came to you and said, hey, which one of these should I buy? Nobody's got an answer for that. I mean, I love this stuff, and even I don't freaking know. So this time around, they're simplifying it. Higher number, faster card, boom, the end. Now, with launch so close, we've got pics of the triple slot 3090 Founders Edition, and all I can say for this beast is I hope you got a big case, a beefy power supply, and really freaking good air conditioning, because the 3090 pulls 350 watts, and that heat has got to go somewhere. With that somewhere being your office or your bedroom, wherever. Video Cards has also gotten a hold of pics of the Gainward 3090 and 3080, along with their spec sheets. And it looks like at least some of the AIBs are going with dual slot designs, which is good for owners of smaller cases. Gainward has chosen to use dual 8-pin power connectors, but you can expect the Founders Edition to use NVIDIA's new 12-pin power connector, which is surprisingly small. I actually like it. Expect power supply makers to start making adapters for older models and new models to come with it built in. NVIDIA has also announced their new GeForce MX 450 GPU for entry-level laptops. Now, this chip's based on the Turing architecture, so it's replacing the Pascal-based MX 200 and 300 series cards, and it does use PCI Express 4.0. Now, if you guys liked what you just heard, I'd appreciate it if you'd smash that like button like NVIDIA's about to smash your wallet. Now, if any of you guys were still under the impression that Intel was king of the Fabs, let me explain just how wrong you are. At TSMC's annual technology symposium, the Taiwanese semiconductor maker got to show off just how good they've become. They gave several talks on their 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3 nanometer nodes, along with their 3D fabric tech. Now, the true test of a fab isn't what they can technically make. It's what they can make in high volumes. Making a single chip is worthless. Making thousands of them is viable. For example, Intel showed off their 10 nanometer high core count Ice Lake SP server chip in 2018. But it's not going to ship until the end of 2020, and we still don't know what kind of volume they're getting. At that same time in 2018, TSMC was already in mass production of their 7 nanometer, and just recently they announced they have shipped 1 billion working chips. Now since then, TSMC's introduced several variants of their 7 nanometer node. They've introduced partial EUV. They've got a 6 nanometer node that's completely compatible with 7, meaning a company can literally design a chip for 7 nanometer, then just decide, oh hey, let's make it on 6 nanometer with absolutely no changes required in design. They just get the benefits of that smaller node for free. TSMC's 5 nanometer node is already in mass production, making chips for Apple, Marvel, Ampere Computing, and others. And they've stated that their 5 nanometer yields started off better than their 7 nanometer did, and they're continuing to improve faster than 7 nanometer did. Their 4 nanometer node is a variant of 5 with minimal migration work required by chip designers. And their 3 nanometer node goes into production in the second half of 2022. TSMC also has their 3D Fabric tech, which is equivalent to Intel's Foveros 3D stacking tech. And Intel's current plans are to debut its 7 nanometer node in late 2022 or early 2023. But by then, TSMC is already going to be mass producing on 3 nanometer. Now, some of you guys out there might be thinking, but Fulton, Intel's 10 nanometer is the same as TSMC's 7. So Intel's 7 will be the same as TSMC's 5, or maybe even 3. Yeah, no, it won't. Sorry. Looking at this chart from TSMC showing their power and performance gains over each node, you can see just how fast TSMC is moving. This is why Intel's screwed until at least 2023 when we see their 7 nanometer node. TSMC is just moving too fast for them to keep up at this point. What Intel doesn't seem to have realized is that TSMC learned to take baby steps with their new nodes. First they got 7 nanometer working good, then they introduced partial EUV to it, then made a few other tweaks and made a 6 nanometer node. Then they created 5 and used what they learned from 7's baby steps. This lets them create new nodes faster without the years of delays that Intel's run into with their 10 and 7 nanometer. So, you know what, here. Let's say AMD's moving Zen 2 from TSMC's original N7 to their N7 Plus, and they changed literally nothing in the design. They can either use 15% less power, or they can gain 10% performance, or they can mix it up and let's say, use 8% less power and gain 7% performance. But they've got to choose. They don't get all of it. They've got to pick one. Here's another example. Let's say AMD makes Zen 3 on N7 Plus and the CPU design itself is 15% faster than Zen 2. Then you throw the 10% performance boost between the two nodes they're on, and now you've got a CPU that's 25% faster than Zen 2. I mean, technically, if AMD wanted to, they could take Zen 2, change again, absolutely nothing, make it on 3 nanometer, and it would still be 30% faster and use the same amount of power. Now, speaking of AMD and Zen, I'm going to show you guys the roadmap I've put together from various sources around the web. This goes all the way out to 2022. Some of this comes from sites like Video Cards or the YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead. And a bunch of other sites. Now, I've talked in my previous videos that about how Zen 3 is coming out the end of this year. But what you may not know is there's one more Zen 2 product coming out either the end of this year or early 2021, and that is the Van Gogh chip, which basically looks like a lower power version of the Ryzen 4000 Renoir chip. But this one will be using RDNA2 graphics. This is a very low power chip, so it's probably going to be used in thin form factor laptops, things like that. Now, we've got Zen 3 coming out to desktop and server at the end of this year, with Cezanne replacing Renoir in laptops sometime in the first half of 2021. They will still be using Vega graphics, but it will be even more enhanced than it was in Renoir. Now, this is where things get interesting because AMD's already stated that Zen 3 is the last chip to use the AM4 socket before they move to AM5. But AMD will be making a version of Zen 3 on the AM5 socket, and that's where Warhol comes in. Dragon Crest is the Zen 3 replacement of Van Gogh for thin and light laptops, and will have an enhanced RDNA 2 architecture, just like AMD's been enhancing the Vega architecture for Renoir and Cezanne. Now, according to AMD's last quarter financial slides, Zen 4 will be coming out at the end of 2021, but only in servers. Those same slides listed RDNA 3 coming out in 2021. And from what I've heard, this will be the first time using chiplets on a discrete graphics card. Zen 4 desktops are slated for early 2022, but AMD will also have Zen 3 Rembrandt desktop chips out in 2022 with integrated graphics. And this is some speculation on my part, but I think that this will be their first GPU chiplet used on a desktop CPU. With AMD moving both CPUs and GPUs to chiplets, it's going to give them a ton of flexibility in their designs. Like, for instance, if they wanted to make Zen 2 support DDR5, they could. All they have to technically do is redesign the I/O chiplet. They don't have to touch anything else. In fact, that could be what they're planning to do with Warhol. They design a new I/O chiplet for DDR5, use the existing AMD Zen 3 chiplets, and then slap it on AM5 socket. Once their GPUs are chiplets as well, they can scale performance on graphics cards by just adding more chiplets. Then they can take one of those GPU chiplets and slap it in a CPU, and you get Rembrandt or Dragon Crest. All right, time for those delayed Starlink speed tests, and in all honesty, it wasn't in the last one because I forgot to write it. I had it in the intro, I was writing the script, and then just flat out forgot to write the Starlink article and didn't realize it until I'd already filmed everything. So yeah, sorry about that, but here it is. Things are looking really good on ping times. We're seeing pings between 20 and 94 milliseconds, which is good enough for gaming. And these should continue to improve as more downlink points are added. We're also seeing download bandwidth as high as 61 megabits per second, and upload speeds between 4 and 17, which again, I expect to improve as download links are added and more satellites gets launched. Tesla's living in interesting times. Their stock has gone through the roof along with Elon's net worth. They just did a 5-for-1 stock split, and Panasonic has agreed to invest another $100 million to expand production at the Nevada Gigafactory. Now, this is the first capacity expansion at the Gigafactory since it opened in 2017, and Panasonic is also upgrading the capacity of the batteries produced there by 5% starting in September. Tesla's Battery Day is on September 22nd, and they have teased an image that appears to be of silicone nanowires. Now, according to an Electric article, one of the main companies developing the technology is Ampere, and they've announced that batteries made with their silicon nanowires are lighter, smaller, and can have up to 50% higher energy density. Now, Ampere recently moved locations and is now conveniently located right next to Tesla's Fremont, California factory. We'll find out more on the 22nd. Now, our last Tesla story is about an attempted ransom plot by a Russian group who tried to bribe a Nevada Gigafactory employee $1 million to infect Tesla's network with malware that would steal data that they then ransom back. They initially offered him $500,000, which he refused. He got the FBI involved. He was wined and dined by the group. And in locations where the FBI couldn't record locations, the employee did it himself. The plan was for the employee to infect the network, and at the same time, the group would conduct a distributed denial of service attack to distract the network security team while the malware infiltrated their network. Now, apparently this group forgot that the main way cyber criminals stay safe is by staying anonymous and out of the country. All I can say is I hope Elon wrote the guy a big fat check. Researchers from the University College London set a new record for data transmission speeds over fiber optic cables. They hit 178 terabits per second, which is apparently close to the theoretical maximum possible over fiber optic cable. The researchers said the new data transmission record is fast enough to download the entire Netflix catalog in under a second. Yeah, can you guys run one to my place, please? Thanks. In legal news, the judge presiding over Epic and Apple's trial Royale has granted Epic's temporary restraining order blocking Apple from its plan to terminate Epic Games' Apple Developer Program account. This keeps developers on iOS using Epic's Unreal Engine safe. And in response to the temporary restraining order, Apple threw a temper tantrum and terminated Epic's access to the entire App Store. It's a good thing Apple doesn't retaliate.
Has Apple ever retaliated against or disadvantaged a developer who went public about their frustrations with the App Store?
Sir, we do not retaliate or bully people. It's strongly against our company culture.
Now our last story is about the death of Oculus. Rest in peace, guys. They've now been rebranded Facebook Reality Labs, and starting in October, anyone new to the Oculus VR system will have to log in with their Facebook account instead of an Oculus ID. Even better, all future unreleased Oculus devices will require a Facebook account, even if you already had an Oculus account you used for an older device. This is all in order to, quote, unlock social features. So now you can be absolutely assured that everything you do on your Oculus is tracked by Facebook, and everything's now done under your real name. So the next time you're stomping someone's face in a VR game, they might know your real name when they rage quit. What could be better? And if you decided to create a fake Facebook account to tie your Facebook Reality Labs headset to, and Facebook catches you, you've now broken their terms of service, and they can delete your account, including everything you bought. So much for virtual anonymity. And that's going to wrap up today's news. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you found something interesting, maybe even learned a thing or two. If you did, please click those like and subscribe buttons. I'll leave you guys with a little clip from Crysis Remastered trailer. Can your PC handle it? Until next time, take care, guys.